I use it as a self-awareness tool. Let me help you to understand yourself a little better.
Welcome back to the LaCroix Show. Our guest today is Natha Perkins, who is a professional writer, a mother, a teacher, an astrologer, and an intuitive guide. Welcome to the show, Natha.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and be talking to you again. We've had some really good conversations over the years, and it's fun to watch both of us as we've kind of grown and developed different superpowers. So I'm psyched that we're back here to do it again.
I want to start off by naming that aspect of astrology that I think is so unique to you, at least from my perspective, unique to you, in that we have this assumption that astrology is some kind of magical, mystical reading the stars, and people sometimes can be skeptical, like, well, why does where the stars were in the sky the day I was born impact who I am? And I know your approach is a little bit more of what I see as being a conversation around increasing self-awareness. Can you speak to that?
So we're all very different and unique while also still having to go through the same trials and tribulations for the most part. And so when I am translating astrology, I really like to make sure that it makes sense to the person. And I use it as a self-awareness tool. Let me help you to understand yourself a little better so that you can relax or feel less stressed out. Like, I think that that's kind of what we're all trying to do, is like make it through this human experience with some bits and pieces of relaxation and knowingness involved, right? Instead of always like white knuckling through. So that's what I always try to do. In astrology, we really can break it down to the different parts of the journey. And there are all of these astrological transits, which we'll talk about later. But the transits are essentially these periods of growth where we have to all do them. We all pass through these. And so when we're looking at this idea of aging and getting older, it's like we have to go on these very specific hero's journeys, if you will, when we hit different ages in our lives. And with every single journey that we complete, we do become wiser and more grounded, and we have more information. And so what we see, like especially it begins in the 40s, late 30s. So, and we call them the midlife transits. And this is where we all have to go through really significant pieces of work where our faith gets tested, and we have to grow up, and we have to look back at our old selves and say, how would this person when she was 20 feel about this person who is now at 40? And it's all of this really powerful work that we have to do. And as we get through those midlife transits, that's when by then you're in your mid 40s and you're looking around and you're like, wow, like I care significantly less about what people think about me. I know significantly more. And it's so empowering, and it's so beautiful to really get to see it from that perspective. Because, in our culture, there's something about getting older that is diminishing, right? And we're all saying like, God, it's not diminishing at all. It's like, I feel more powerful than I've ever felt. And so we can see that in astrology and help make sense, because again, we're all unique. So our journeys and our lessons through those periods are going to be just for us, but we can look at a chart and say, here's the nature of your journey.
I think then the second conversation we had, you were telling me about another version of that, or Chiron return, or something like that. Is that ringing a bell?
Yes.
And that was also like another stage of the journey that was sort of similar.
Starting when we are 28 to 30, we go through a first Saturn return, and Saturn is the planet of tradition, of the way that we are expected to show up. And so, we talk about this a lot as we begin to detach from caring so much about what people think. And that caring what people think is very Saturn in nature. It's like, this is how you're good. This is how you're respected. And when we go through our Saturn return at 30, we have to come to terms with the idea of being our own authority. And so we do that in many ways. We make huge life changes. We start to not pay so much attention to what our parents have to say about things, etc. And then we progress through, we go through the series of midlife transits when we're in our early 40s. And that is where we, like I said, we question our faith. We look at what is, the traumas and dramas that are still holding us back and keeping us hostage. We have to look back at that old, part of ourselves and determine whether we're really doing what we came here to do, et cetera. And then at 50 is when we have that Chiron return. Chiron return is about having to face our wounding on the deepest level yet. But what many of us know about ourselves is that, even if we aren't healers in the traditional sense, there is something that we are doing out in the world that is very healing for others. So we all approach that in a different way. We all become healers in our own right. And when we're 48 or 50, we have to heal something or a number of things on the deepest level yet, because that is when we step into being the wise elder, the medicine man or woman, the high priestess, the empress, like whatever it is. So that is 50. And then we have a second Saturn return, which happens right around 58 or 60.
Oh,
and that is really where it's at, because by then you're really looking at like, I'm not willing, I am no longer willing to fall for whatever that stuff is. No way. And it's like super empowering.
I love this so much. And I want to say that our last conversation for your podcast, where we talked about that initial Chiron return and you illuminated that piece for me, was really powerful for me. And I'm going to say made a huge difference in my life, because you gave me affirmation for something that I could feel was happening in me, but by underlining that this is the time for you to step into your teaching, it really empowered me to step forward. I mean, I really held it in my mind. It really hit me in the heart. And it really was a big push forward for something I already felt and already knew, but kept on remembering that, and really had me say, okay, it is time. Step forward, step forward, step forward, bring your truth. You can make a difference, help people. And I would say that it's really impacted the last couple of years as I've come out a lot more in terms of social media, in terms of bringing my message, and in terms of encouraging other people and teaching other people to use their voices and bring their stories to the world, because we can make a difference by telling our stories. So I'm going to say thank you for that, because I think it was really impactful for me.
We come in as souls with mission and purpose. And it takes a significant amount of years to get to where we understand what that purpose is. And in the meantime, we're doing a lot of different versions of mission and purpose. We're learning how to make money and learning how to use our voice and learning how to parent and all of this stuff. But there is a big part of the mission and a big overall piece that we just don't get access to until we have gone through, which is what's so fascinating in many ways about really honoring that crone archetype in a way that we have been taught not to honor it, right? Is because, like, how would you know any of these things until you had truly walked through them? You don't. And so it is through walking through these where we're like, God, that was really hard. That brought me to my knees. That broke my heart. But I recovered, I learned, and here I am really at this point ready to fulfill that mission and purpose in the biggest way yet, which usually involves sharing what we know. It's been really wild to watch so many things happening at once in the sky. So we always look at the relationships between the planets. How are the planets speaking to each other? And, I'm personifying planets here because they're not people, but the archetypes, how are these archetypes merging with one another? Like what happens when we merge the archetype of transformation with the archetype of emotions? Whoa.
Ooh.
Okay. And so we're doing all of that right now. It's like all happening. And so we're all feeling it on a personal level, just part of why we're all kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? But also it's so exciting because when everything's super easy, it's nice, but we get bored.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So I not that you have to tell us your entire chart or your entire path, but tell me a little bit about what's happening in your world as you've learned about it, or as you've noticed your path, say, in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have had some really unexpected things show up in my life over the past few years, and they have all propelled me into significant growth. And so that is also something that I'm always saying to clients is like, look, things happen, right? Like things begin and things end. And if you had had your choice, you might not have chosen that.
Yeah.
But if you look in hindsight at how it all went down, there's usually this like, oh, thank God that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to remember that too, is when we're meeting life challenges and situations, like this is a part of everybody's soul growth. And it's certainly a part of my soul growth over these last few years. I feel like I have actually grown more and deeper and faster since 2020 than at any point in my life. And it was definitely a series of unexpected, like mind blowing, like, wait, what? No. And the universe is like, yes. And now I can finally look back and say, I'm so grateful. And I would not have it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And so just knowing that, right? It's one of the wisdom things, right? When
Yeah.
you can see
True.
that and you can hold it, then when there's upcoming things like, what's going to happen? How's that going to work? You have this ground of like, I'm good. If I got through that, I can get through anything that comes my way.
And it is very connected to, I think, what I call artful aging, which is you can go through your life and if you're lucky, get to a certain point in your life with anything too majorly terrible happening or too unexpected happening. But it comes at a point in the aging process and the growing old process where you can't escape it forever. And you will get tested and you will be challenged and you will experience grief, loss, sadness, difficulty, challenge, and the question becomes, how do you handle it and do you grow from it? And so I think that that's the opportunity that this stage of life offers. I mean, you're probably 10 years younger than me at least, or close to it anyway. And so I know looking back that was definitely a period of a lot of grief, loss, change, unexpected events, and the human experience that comes out of it also.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's when we talk about these midlife transits, it's like we do become prepared, right? It's like we go through our younger lives and we're kind of learning the ropes. Then we have a little bit of time where we're kind of just doing the stuff. And then we hit the transits, which all help us prepare by, challenging ourselves, by examining our trauma, by developing a relationship with spirit, stepping deeper and deeper into our power, like all of this stuff, we are prepared for it. And then we go through the actual experiences. And you're right, it is, I think it's what we're here to do, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
absolutely. So true. So true. So what do people need to know about how they can contact you, what kind of work you're doing, what kind of services you're offering? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, well, you can find me at electraastrology.com. And I am doing one-on-one readings and I'm doing a lot of teaching. So people that are wanting to learn astrology for their own, people that are wanting to learn astrology to do a business. And then my favorite thing that I'm doing right now is I'm watching a fuzz flying by my face. I have a membership where we do a lot of conversations like this, where we're talking about the psychological, spiritual, astrological components of just being here and what we're doing and how to do the spiritual awakening. So that is called the Hidden Wisdom Astrology Circle. And so I'm just doing this thing called life, but with this really beautiful tool that I'm like, how did I get so lucky to like know how to use this tool? Like I love it every day.
Beautiful. And now who is it for? Who are the people in your membership group?
It's really for anybody that wants to connect in more deeply with themselves and wants a guide. And then every month we change archetypes as the sun changes signs. And like I said, astrology is the human archetypes that we are all dealing with all day, every day.
Beautiful. And what's the structure of it? It's a monthly membership that you do a monthly call with, and then recordings available, or how you
Yeah.
structure it?
Yeah. So I do a Monday morning. It's like a teaching / astrology of what's happening the week of. So that gets released 4 times a month. And then there are 2 live calls at the full moon and the new moon. And we gather and we talk about it. I do some teaching, we do some meditation, and then I'll go into people's charts and kind of make sense of just, what's up for you right now, what's up for you today. And you and I are speaking on the day of a new moon. So the energy it's stirred.
Yeah. And it's also the solstice, right?
The solstice, yeah, it's the equinox.
The equinox. I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
meant. The equinox.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Big energy.
Wow. Beautiful. Well, I will put information about your group and to your website and to our past conversations in the comments and the notes below. And I want to say thank you so much for coming back and talking with me again in this a new show format. And it's really great to have the conversation, speaking and actually being able to see you and having this conversation this way. So thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. This is perfect. And talking to so many people, for me, I know that the work that you're doing is in high demand. So super psyched that you're showing up in this way. So thank you too.
Thank you, Natha. If there was anything in today's episode or any other episode that you found interesting or useful or compelling, if you could subscribe to the channel, you can hit that notification button or the like button, or even make a comment below. It all helps the channel grow. And in the meantime, here are some other videos you might find interesting.